Even the most feared man in hip hop has to learn the rules behind bars. Suge Knight, the king of Death Row Records, once commanded the streets, launched legendary careers, and made grown men think twice before crossing him. But now, that same man is facing a world where his fame can be just as dangerous as his enemies. Locked up for a 28-year sentence, his empire crumbled, his health is declining, and every move inside prison could mean life or death. In this video, we're diving deep into how Suge Knight is surviving behind bars, navigating threats from old rivals, managing alliances, and facing the harsh realities that no celebrity status can shield him from. From his rise as a hip hop mogul to the dangerous world inside prison, this story is full of power, betrayal, and survival instincts you won't believe. So, how does a man who once ruled the music industry adapt to life where every glance could be a test and every step could spark danger? Let's break it all down. Suge Knight wasn't just a record executive, he was a force of nature. He built Death Row Records from the ground up, transforming it into the most feared and respected label in hip hop history. Under his leadership, legends like Dr.Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur didn't just release music, they created movements that shook the industry to its core. Suge's empire wasn't only about hits, it was about respect, loyalty, and fear. Every handshake, every deal, every move he made commanded attention. But that power didn't follow him into prison. The moment Suge walked through the gates of R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego, everything changed. Luxury cars, flashing cameras, and studio lights were replaced by iron bars, strict routines, and the cold reality that outside fame means almost nothing inside. The man who once controlled the careers of music's biggest names now had to obey count time, chow time, and lights out on someone else's schedule. For someone like Suge, this was more than a culture shock. It was a complete loss of control. Outside, his reputation made others cautious. Inside, it painted a target. Inmates don't see a celebrity, they see a potential threat, a possible score, or someone to challenge for dominance. Suddenly, every step required calculation, every interaction demanded strategy, and every glance could carry danger. And yet, even stripped of his empire, Suga's mindset didn't disappear. He had to learn fast how to navigate the complex social landscape of prison life, a world where alliances are everything, respect is earned daily, and missteps can be fatal. His journey from kingpin to just another number is a story of adaptation, survival, and the harsh lessons that come when the streets and celebrity collide with the unforgiving reality of prison walls. Prison is brutal for anyone, but for Suge Knight, the challenges aren't just about navigating rivalries, they're about survival on a very personal, physical level. Once a towering figure over 350 pounds, Suge's body began showing cracks under the pressure of incarceration. Reports indicate he dropped to around 315 pounds, a loss that wasn't voluntary or healthy, but a clear warning sign of the stress and poor conditions inside. His health issues go far beyond weight loss. Suge suffers from diabetes, untreated injuries, and a host of complications that make every day a potential threat. Back in 2017, he was hospitalized for blood clots, a life-threatening condition he attributed to solitary confinement and inadequate medical care. For someone facing decades behind bars, even minor medical neglect can spiral into serious risk. This decline in health isn't just a personal problem, it's a survival issue. In prison, physical presence matters. Strength and stamina can deter attacks or establish authority. A weakened body removes that buffer. For Suja, whose reputation was built on intimidation and fear, losing physical power is like losing a critical part of his arsenal. Even worse, prison conditions often exacerbate existing problems. Limited access to proper food, inconsistent medical attention, and high stress levels can accelerate health decline. Suge's body is telling the story that survival isn't just about street smarts. It's about staying physically capable enough to navigate threats, maintain awareness, and endure the grind. These vulnerabilities change the stakes. Suge Knight isn't just dealing with rival inmates or old enemies. He's confronting a body under pressure, a health system that can't always keep up, and the psychological strain of knowing that one misstep could cost him dearly. The man who once commanded fear now has to fight every day to preserve the very foundation that made him untouchable in the first place. Surviving in prison isn't just about keeping your head down, it's about understanding an entirely different set of rules. For Suge Knight, the stakes are even higher. His name carries weight, but in a system where reputations are constantly tested, that notoriety can make him a target as much as it protects him. Inside, alliances aren't optional, they're survival tools. Every inmate has a network, whether through gang affiliations, shared history, or mutual interests. For someone like Suge, old connections from the streets and music industry provide some protection, but they can also paint a target on his back. Rival gang members, former enemies, and inmates looking to make a name for themselves all have reason to challenge him. Suge has also had to navigate the tricky terrain of snitches and cooperation with law enforcement. In his prison interviews, he highlighted how important it is to distinguish between inmates who respect the code and those who undermine it. Misreading someone's intentions could lead to serious consequences. Unlike the outside world, where power is often about influence and fear, inside it's about observation, timing, and knowing who to trust. Every day is a strategic chess game. From meals to recreation yards to work assignments, Suge must calculate his interactions, avoid unnecessary confrontations, and maintain a low profile while still commanding respect. His experience in the music industry, negotiating, intimidating, and reading people has helped, but it's a completely different battlefield. And yet, despite the danger, Suga shows an awareness that many inmates never achieve. He understands that surviving decades behind bars requires patience, strategic alliances, and psychological resilience. The stakes are higher than any negotiation in the boardroom or studio. One wrong move could escalate into violence that changes the course of his life permanently. Suge Knight didn't make enemies by accident, he built them. From his early days in the music industry to his peak at Death Row Records, rivalries were part of the game. Names like Dr.Dre, Snoop Dogg, Diddy, and even Vanilla Ice aren't just footnotes in his career. They represent unresolved tensions that could follow him anywhere, even inside prison walls. His connections to street gangs also play a dual role. On one hand, these affiliations, like the Peru Street Gang reported by police in 2008, offer a layer of protection. Allies can deter attacks and provide intelligence about potential threats. On the other hand, those same ties make him a target for rival gangs or inmates seeking to settle old scores. Prison is a microcosm of the streets, and in that world, reputations don't fade, they evolve into liabilities. Reports suggest that attacks and threats against Suga started circulating almost immediately after his incarceration. His high profile status made him impossible to ignore. Other inmates, seeing a man who once wielded immense power, may test him either to prove their own dominance or to capitalize on the fame he still carries. Every interaction is a test, and every whisper of a past feud can ignite real danger. Even Sug's early reputation for intimidation continues to influence his life behind bars. Stories like the infamous Vanilla Ice incident, where he allegedly pressured the rapper to sign over rights under threat, or his conflicts with other record executives, serve as a warning. His history isn't just entertainment gossip, it's a roadmap of potential risks. The challenge is balancing these connections. He must leverage alliances for safety while avoiding unnecessary attention that could provoke attacks. The line between survival and confrontation is razor thin, and Sug's strategy must account for enemies both inside the prison system and beyond. Being famous in prison is a double edged sword, and for Suge Knight, that edge cuts both ways. Outside, his name commanded respect, fear, and influence. Inside, it draws attention, sometimes protective, sometimes dangerous. Other inmates recognize who he is, and that recognition can make him a figure of power or a high value target. Suga's celebrity status gives him leverage. Allies may flock to him for protection or association, hoping that proximity to a legend will boost their own standing. In a world where perception and reputation are everything, having Suge as an ally can shift dynamics in a yard full of wary and strategic inmates, but the spotlight also attracts threats. Rivals or opportunists may see him as an easy mark because of his fame, his known history of conflict, or the perception that he can be manipulated. In a system where old grudges never die, Suga's past actions, business disputes, street rivalries, and high profile conflicts follow him like a shadow. Every word he has spoken publicly, every controversial deal, and every threat he made in his career can be recalled and used against him. Navigating this environment demands constant vigilance. Suge cannot rely solely on fear to protect him anymore. He must read the room, assess motives, and move with strategy. Even minor missteps, showing weakness, misunderstanding an alliance, or underestimating a rival, can escalate quickly into physical or psychological danger. His celebrity also affects how the guards and prison administration see him. High profile inmates often receive more scrutiny, meaning that small infractions or disputes are noticed and documented, adding pressure to every decision he makes. For someone who once ruled an empire, this constant monitoring is a new kind of challenge, one where visibility can be as dangerous as any rival. Suge Knight's experience shows that fame doesn't stop at the prison gates. It travels with you, sometimes as a shield, sometimes as a target, forcing him to adapt in ways few can imagine. His survival depends not just on his physical strength or street smarts, but on his ability to navigate a complex social and political ecosystem that turns notoriety into both power and peril. Life behind bars isn't just about physical survival. It's about managing the constant psychological pressure. For Suge Knight, the mental game is relentless. Once a man who thrived on controlling every situation, he now faces a world where every moment is dictated by rules he didn't create, and every interaction could carry hidden risks. The weight of decades-long incarceration is enormous. A 28-year sentence means seeing years slip by with limited freedom, missed family moments, and no control over one's environment. For someone who once wielded immense influence, that loss of autonomy can be crushing. Suge must grapple with the reality that no amount of fame or intimidation can alter the rigid structure of prison life. Isolation and constant vigilance are psychologically taxing. He can't afford to relax because even a moment of distraction might lead to confrontation. Every decision, from where to sit in the yard to who to trust in a conversation, carries risk. The stress of always being on guard is relentless and can have lasting effects on mental health. Beyond the day-to-day threats, there's the emotional burden of reflecting on his past. Suge has spent decades building an empire, forging alliances, and battling enemies, but now he is stripped of that world. Watching his former influence crumble, knowing his mistakes contributed to his current situation, and processing the loss of power and prestige are all heavy psychological loads. Suge has tried to navigate these pressures with strategic thinking. In interviews from prison, he emphasizes the importance of understanding the system, making calculated decisions, and learning from mistakes. He warns young people about thinking fame or street knowledge will protect them in legal trouble, highlighting the harsh reality that the system often treats ordinary people differently from those with resources or notoriety. Coping with this mental pressure also involves staying aware of health and safety risks, maintaining alliances, and avoiding conflicts whenever possible. Sug's mental survival depends on combining street intelligence, caution, and adaptability, skills that served him outside, but are now being tested in an entirely new arena. Ultimately, Suge Knight's mental resilience is as critical as his physical survival. Decades in prison require a mindset that balances vigilance, strategic thinking, and psychological endurance, proving that even a legendary figure like Suga must constantly adapt to survive in a world that respects no one unconditionally. Even behind bars, Suge Knight continues to fight the system. His legal team has repeatedly tried to appeal his 28-year sentence, arguing violations of his rights and inadequate counsel. In 2023, his attempt to overturn the sentence failed, with judges citing timing and lack of merit. Earlier, in March 2025, Judge Laura F. Priver denied his habeas corpus petition, effectively shutting the door on early release or sentence reduction. These failed appeals make it clear that Suge will spend decades in prison, facing not just physical and social challenges, but the reality of a system that offers little flexibility for high-profile inmates. His legal battles illustrate how, despite fame and past influence, the prison system enforces rules evenly and relentlessly, leaving Suge to confront the full consequences of his actions. Suge Knight's future in prison is uncertain but clearly challenging. With a 28-year sentence, declining health, and a long list of enemies, every day will demand caution, strategy, and resilience. His past fame and street reputation provide some protection, but also make him a target, keeping him constantly on alert. While his legal options are mostly exhausted, Suge's influence and connections may allow him to navigate prison life more safely than most. Yet decades of confinement will inevitably take a physical and mental toll. His survival depends on balancing alliances, avoiding conflicts, and maintaining vigilance. Ultimately, Suge Knight's legacy, both feared and notorious, continues to shape his life behind bars. What lies ahead is a test of endurance, strategy, and adaptability, proving that even legends must adapt to survive when power no longer protects them. Suge Knight's story is a stark reminder of how power, fame, and influence can shift in an instant. From running one of hip hop's most feared empires to navigating the dangers of prison life, his journey is both legendary and cautionary. His past rivalries, legal battles, and street connections continue to follow him, shaping every moment behind bars. While his legacy in music remains undeniable, the realities of incarceration, declining health, constant threats, and decades of confinement paint a vivid picture of how even the most feared figures must adapt to survive. Suge Knight's life shows that reputation can open doors, but it can also make survival a daily challenge. What do you think his future holds? Could he maintain influence from behind bars, or will prison life strip away the last vestiges of his power? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind hip hop's most notorious figures.